Hi Mystery Quilters, it's Cari Apostol. We're back for week 2 of the 2016 summer mystery quilt. And by now you will have 168 negative space squares, 5 inches each, and 168 colorful squares, 5 inches each. The first week what we're going to do is make 4 patches. I know I don't need to show you how to make 4 patches, but in case there's somebody watching who doesn't know how to make one, I'm going to show you. So you take a color and a white and you put them together. So let's just demonstrate up here on my design wall, which is awesome. If you don't have a design wall, get a design wall. It's just put it on the back of your door. If you don't have a dedicated studio, just do it's just an amazing thing to have. And we're going to be using it a lot. I'm going to be using it a lot for demonstration through the process of this quilt. So you're going to have a color and a white, and you're going to take the white or the color, doesn't make really any difference. You're going to lay it on top, and they should match perfectly because they're both 5 inches. And you're going to stitch down this joining seam right here, a 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's pretty standard in quilting. The secret is everybody's 1/4 inch is different. And so if you start a quilt on a specific machine, you should be the one who finishes that quilt on the same machine. Because even if you take your thought of 1/4 inch to a different machine, it's going to turn out differently. So I would encourage you to start and finish your quilt on the same machine with your hand doing the stitching. It doesn't make any difference if it's really a 1/4 inch. What makes a difference is if it's consistent, if it's consistently your 1/4 inch. So you're going to take this and you're going to stitch down a 1/4 inch here, and you are going to press toward the color. So when you press this, don't press the seam open, press it towards the color. And you're going to make 56 of these 2 patches, okay? Then you're going to join the 2 patch. You're going to make ultimately 28. So 56 divided in half is 28. You're going to take this 2 patch and join it to another 2 patch. Now all this is, don't get confused, it's not like you have to do these differently. This is this way, and then if you turn it right side over, it's going to be this way. I know that's simple, but sometimes you get confused. And you're going to join these together along this line. So you make 56 of this top row. You're going to then divide it in half. You'll have so that you make 28 of these 4 patches. And they're going to look like this when they're done. Okay, 4 patch. Now here's one of the reasons I want you to fold it, press it to the color side when you're in this stage, when you're doing this first one. Because on the back, I want you to see this, on the back it makes this little mini 4 patch when you press it. So you do this kind of action. These were, when I pressed it together, which way was it? It was this way. When I stitched this together, it was like this with it standing up, and all I did was go pull it apart. So you kind of pull that seam apart a little bit and then press it, and the goal then is that you get a flat, this is really flat right here. So, and that's what you want, because you don't want, nobody wants to have hard spots in their quilt. They want to have soft spots. So fold it like that. So make 28 of those, 4 patches, and I'll see you back here next week. Oh yeah, it's working. Good, you got to see my face? Good. Okay, so now I want to show you just how to press these real quick. And this is true for anything you're doing. Heat up the seam to set the stitches, and then just roll it back over. Okay? And that's how you're going to, so you start with the color on top, and roll it over. Set the seam with the color on top, roll it over, set the seam with the color on top, roll it over, and that's how you get the seam pressed towards the color. We'll come back for doing the little opening of the 1/4 seam, little bitty mini 4 square in a sec. Okay, I wanted to show you how I'm putting these through the machine. So a great way, when you're lining the 2 pieces up, okay, and you're going to make a 4 patch, a great way to do that is to orient, first, you want to make sure that the two seam allowances snuggle up together. So it's difficult to see with this one because this is a light fabric, but you want to be able to feel no ditch in between there, in between those two seam allowances. You can see this seam allowance and this one. You don't want a ditch between there. So on the pretty side of the fabric, they're butted up right next to each other. So that's the first thing that you want to be able to do. Be sure you do. The next thing is to orient this so that the seam allowance on the top side is going towards the machine. So the seam allowance on the color side is up. If you do it this way, the seam allowance is down, and I'll explain to you what happens. When you do it orient it this way, and you're stitching along here, the foot and the stitching will force this to press into the corresponding seam on the other side, and kind of lock them into place. If you're going along this way, it can actually push them aside so that they're not locking in, and you can get a little gap there that wasn't there when you laid it down, but just because fabric is fluid, it'll get separated, it'll open up. So let me show you what I'm doing here. And you want to chain piece all of this stuff. So I'm just putting it in. When I get to this spot, I'm kind of slowing down just a little bit, and I'm just making sure that it's straight at the bottom. I'm going ahead and stitching through. Now I want to show you what this does on the inside here. You can see that seam is just locked in absolutely perfectly. And now I want to show you the little pulling apart thing. So this is the seam that I just did, that I just stitched right there. And we're going to lay it down flat, and then you're just going to pull this side towards the white and this side towards the white. You're just going to pull them apart like that. And what happens is that this little middle section right here opens up. It opens up and presses down flat, okay? So you've made this little four patch on the back. There's color, there's white, there's yellow, but you can't really see it because I happen to catch a white spot in that corner, and here. But it makes that little four patch on the back. And the goal of that then is that it's going to be flat. It's not going to be fold. Just go ahead and fold your fabric up like that and feel the thickness there. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of fabric right there, where if you do it this way, you've got only 4, and it's an even distribution of the 4, so it's just flatter and nicer. And we don't want to have bumps in our quilts. We want to have nice flat quilts. So make 28 4 patches, and if you can, make the little 4 patch on the back because you'll like how your quilt feels afterwards.